Easter Auchnaggy lies within the Braes of Tullymet, 6 miles southeast of Pitlochry in Perthshire. Hard granite underlies the pasture and rolling moorland here, and the streams run filtered, sweet and clear, fragranced with the scent of moss and heather bells. A distillery operated here from 1812, mashing the stream water with the local beer barley, an ancient strain of barley brought to Scotland by the Vikings. The water supply, high in mineral content, was particularly good for making malt whisky. The whisky made here was of the very highest quality and possessed the soft, mellow flavour now so generally approved of by connoisseurs. Auchnaggy peats were cut from the high ground above the distillery, on the shores of nearby Loch Broom. Families devoted time to securing their fuel for home and for distilling. Peats were dried on the high ground and carted down to Tullymet. Stills were constructed inside existing farm buildings and generally relied on a water wheel for motive power. Highland stills were small in stature, but spirit from the small stills of the region was considered far superior to that of the lowland brands. Knowledge of distillation was handed down through the generations. The Dick family, the landlords of the first distillery, James Duff, who built the distillery, Alexander Forbes, Duncan Scott, Peter Dawson, who made headlines by bottling the largest vatting of whisky then recorded. The completion of the Highland Railway in 1863 created the means of transporting greater quantities of produce to a much wider area. However, the proposed branch line from Tullymet down to nearby Ballinluig was never built, which meant transportation of whisky at Auchnaggy continued on horseback until the distillery ceased production. The final owners were the Perth-based whisky merchants John Dewar and Sons. Tommy, the youngest son, lived in London from 1885 and within 2 years had established his brand as the top-selling whisky in the capital. Based on this success, they purchased Auchnaggy. However, demand for their whisky was such that one small distillery could never produce enough, and in 1894 a new distillery at Aberfeldy was commissioned. This effectively meant the end of the road for Auchnaggy. Aberfeldy opened in 1896, and production at Auchnaggy ceased for good in late 1910. In 1912, the equipment and machinery were removed, thus ending over a century of legal distilling history in the hamlet of Tullymet, spelling the end of the Auchnaggy name. Until now. The Lost Distillery Company. Lost whisky brands, reinterpreted.